In the cold autumn of 1794, hidden in the wild hills of Pennsylvania, Dusk Hollow Mission stood like a forgotten prayer, its stone walls fighting against a forest that seemed alive with hate. The mission, built by a secretive group of monks called the Order of St. Cuthbert, was meant to spread God's word in a land no settler dared touch. The native Lenape people called this place cursed, warning of spirits older than the mountains, tied to a well that was no ordinary well. By winter, all 30 monks and 20 orphaned boys living there vanished. No blood, no bodies, just silence. The mission's well at the heart of the courtyard was the only thing left untouched, its dark water still, its stones carved with strange symbols no one could understand. The nearby town of Coldwater burned every record of the mission, and the church banned its name, yet whispers spread of a well that wasn't just a well, but a hungry mouth and a dark promise made to keep it quiet. The air around Dusk Hollow felt wrong, heavy with a sour smell, like something rotting deep in the earth. The monks, stern and pale, had come to save souls, but the land had other plans. The boys, taken in for care, stopped smiling, their eyes fixed on the well as if it called them. The forest watched, its trees bending closer, as if guarding a secret too terrible to speak. The land of Dusk Hollow was never at peace. Long before the mission, the Lenape called it the place where shadows drink, avoiding it with fear in their eyes. They spoke of a well, not built by any man, that appeared after a star fell, its waters moving without wind. Those who looked too long saw faces in the ripples, faces that weren't theirs. In 1790, the Order of St. Cuthbert, a group the church barely tolerated, claimed the land. They built the mission, believing their prayers could tame the evil. Led by Father Gideon, a tall man with eyes like cold iron, the monks worked in silence, their faces worn by something more than faith. They took in 20 boys, orphans from nearby towns, promising to raise them in God's light. But the boys changed. They grew quiet, their laughter gone, as if listening to a voice the monks couldn't hear. The monks' letters to the church stopped by summer, and supply wagons sent to the mission never came back. The well, deep and dark, stood at the center of it all, its stones older than the forest, carved with spirals and shapes that hurt the eyes. At night, the monks heard faint sounds from the well, like whispers in a strange tongue, twisting their dreams into nightmares. The boys began to wander to the well after dark, standing still, staring into its depths as if it spoke their names. By October, the mission felt like a trap. The path from Coldwater to Dusk Hollow grew heavy, the air thick with a smell like rusted metal. Townsfolk stopped visiting, saying the forest felt alive, its branches reaching out to block the way. A hunter, brave enough to approach, found the mission's gate wide open, the courtyard empty. The well stood untouched, its water black as night, reflecting no stars. He swore he heard a low hum, like a choir singing in a language he didn't know. Inside, the monks' robes were folded neatly by the well, as if they'd walked away without them. The boys' beds were empty, their small shoes lined up against the dormitory walls, untouched by dust. The hunter's heart raced as he felt the well's pull, urging him to look inside. He ran, his sleep haunted by dreams of dark water and pale hands reaching up. Coldwater's people whispered of strange lights in the mission's windows, flickering long after it was abandoned. The church sent a priest to investigate, but he returned pale, his hands shaking, refusing to speak of what he saw. His report, hidden in a locked vault, spoke of a presence that watched from the shadows. The well, he wrote, was no simple hole. Its stones were ancient, carved with symbols that seemed to move when he blinked. The church called the mission lost to wild animals, but no one believed it. Coldwater's elders wanted the mission forgotten. They burned their records, erasing Dusk Hollow from history, but the forest wouldn't let it go. The trees around the mission twisted, their branches forming shapes like crooked crosses. Farmers miles away said their animals fled at night, running toward the valley as if called. A woman claimed her son, lost years before, spoke to her in dreams, his voice coming from a deep, dark place. By 1800, the mission was a ruin, its walls falling as if the earth hated them. A trapper, seeking shelter, camped near the well. He woke to find his fire out, his tools arranged in a perfect circle around the well's edge. In the water, he saw shapes, Boys, their eyes wide, their mouths open in silent screams. He fled, his mind heavy with the well's hum, a sound that followed him home. His story spread, drawing curious souls to the valley. A scholar, ignoring the church's warnings, visited in 1805. He found only the well, its stones warm to the touch. Even in winter, he sketched the symbols, but his papers were stolen from his camp, and he vanished days later. Coldwater's people whispered of a curse, a debt the monks owed to something older than their god. The boys, they said, were taken, their souls offered to keep the well quiet. The church stayed silent, its leaders afraid of what the truth might wake. The mission's dark heart began to show. In 1812, a buried journal was found in a Coldwater cellar, written by Father Gideon. Its pages told of a stone tablet dug up near the well, covered in strange words no monk could read. Gideon called it a gift from God, but it felt wrong, its surface warm and pulsing. The boys changed after it was found, their eyes empty, their voices gone. They gathered at the well each night, humming a tune that made the monks' heads Gideon wrote of a voice from the well, soft but clear, promising safety if they paid a price. The monks, scared and desperate, agreed, offering the boys as a sacrifice. Gideon's last entry was short: "The well is not empty." The journal was hidden, but its words reached those who hunted secrets. The valley grew darker, its air thick with fear. Hunters avoided it, saying the ground felt alive, like it was watching. A farmer's wife passing nearby heard her dead daughter's voice, calling from the well. She ran, but the sound stayed in her dreams, pulling her back. The church, desperate to stop the rumors, sent men to seal the well, but they never returned. The mission's curse, it seemed, was not just in the stones, but in the land itself, hungry and waiting. The valley of Dusk Hollow grew darker with each passing year. By 1815, the mission was a crumbling ruin, its walls sinking into the earth as if swallowed. The well, though, stood strong, its stones untouched by time, their strange carvings glowing faintly under moonlight. A group of settlers, hungry for the mission's rumored treasures, ventured into the valley. They found only the well, its black water rippling without wind. One man, bolder than the rest, leaned over the edge. He screamed, saying he saw his own face in the water, but older, twisted, with eyes that begged to be freed. The group ran, leaving their tools behind. Days later, their camp was empty, their wagons untouched. Coldwater's people whispered of a curse, a deal the monks made with something not of this world. The boys, they said, were not just taken. They were given, their souls traded to keep the well silent. The church, desperate to bury the truth, sent a priest to bless the land, but he fled, his cross broken, his face pale with fear. He spoke of a hum from the well, like a song that crawled into his mind. The forest around the mission seemed to watch, its trees bending inward, their branches like fingers pointing to the well. No one dared stay long, but those who passed nearby felt a pull, as if the well knew their names and wanted them closer. The church's silence grew heavier. By 1820, Dusk Hollow Mission was erased from their books, its name a sin to speak, but the well refused to be forgotten. Hunters passing the valley heard strange sounds, soft footsteps, like bare feet on wet stone circling the well. A widow from Coldwater swore her dead son's voice called her from the forest, his words muffled, as if spoken through water. She ran, but the voice followed, whispering her name in her sleep. The townsfolk, scared and angry, burned more records hoping to kill the mission's memory, but the valley fought back. Crops near Dusk Hollow withered, marked with odd footprints too small for grown men. A cult calling themselves the Watchers of the Hollow appeared, drawn to the well's dark pull. They camped at its edge, chanting to wake the choir below. Their leader, a thin man with wild eyes, claimed the well was a gate to eternity, but only for those who paid its price. In 1825, their camp was found empty, their robes stained with black water, torn as if clawed. A note left behind read, "They sing, but not for us." The cult's fate was hushed, their names wiped clean, but the well stayed, its stones warm, its water alive with secrets the church couldn't bury. the well's curse grew stronger. In 1830, a logger working near the valley woke to find his tools missing, found later by the well, rusted as if left for years. He heard a low hum like voices singing far away, and felt his heart pound with dread. He fled, but the sound stayed in his head, pulling him back in dreams. Coldwater's children began waking at night, talking of a well that sang their names. Their parents, terrified, moved away, leaving the town half empty. The church, desperate, sent a team to destroy the well. They carried iron bars and holy water ready to collapse its stones. None returned. Their camp, found weeks later, held only a boy's shoe, its leather black with strange water. The valley seemed to breathe, its air thick, its shadows moving without light. A farmer passing nearby saw lights in the forest, like candles floating above the ground. He swore they formed a circle around the well, flickering as if alive. The church stopped sending men, its leaders whispering of a mistake made by the monks, a deal that bound their souls to something dark. The well, they said, was no longer just a place. It was a will, a thing that watched and waited, its hunger growing with every year it was left alone. By 1835, a dying monk, once a young helper at Dusk Hollow, broke his silence. On his deathbed, he spoke to a scribe, his voice weak but full of fear. He told of the stone tablet the monks found near the well, its surface warm, its carvings moving like living things. Father Gideon thought it was holy, a sign from God, but the monk knew it was wrong. The boys changed when it was found, their eyes empty, their voices gone, drawn to the well like moths to a flame. The monk said the well spoke, its voice soft but clear, promising to spare the mission if they gave it the boys. The monks, scared and lost, agreed, leading the boys to the well one night. Their screams, he said, were swallowed by the dark. The monk's confession was burned, but not before its words spread to those who hunted secrets. The valley grew quieter, but the well's pull was stronger. Hunters said their dogs refused to enter Dusk Hollow, whining and running away. A child, wandering too close, came back silent, his eyes fixed on something far away. The church, now desperate, called the mission a myth. The valley became a place of dread. By 1840, even the bravest avoided Dusk Hollow, saying the ground felt alive, like it breathed under their feet. A traveler, caught in a storm, took shelter near the well. He woke to find his fire out, his knife buried in the dirt by the well's edge. He heard singing, soft and sad, like boys calling from far away. The water moved, showing faces, pale, small, with eyes that stared through him. He ran, but the song stayed, haunting his sleep. His story drew others, curious or foolish, to the valley. A scholar, seeking the mission's truth, found the well in 1845. Its stones were warm, even in the cold, and the air felt heavy, like it pressed against his chest. He tried to draw the carvings, but his hands shook, and his sketches were stolen from his camp. He vanished, his bag found miles away, filled with stones from the well. The church, tired of the rumors, sent men to fill the well with earth. They never came back. Their tools, found later, were rusted, arranged in a spiral around the well. The valley's curse, it seemed, was not just in the well, but in the land, watching, waiting, calling to those who came too close. By 1850, Dusk Hollow was a name spoken only in whispers. The valley felt alive, its air thick, its shadows moving without cause. Hunters swore they saw footprints, small, like a child's, circling the well in the dirt. A farmer's wife, passing nearby, heard her lost daughter's voice, soft and sad, calling from the forest. She ran, but the sound followed, echoing in her dreams, pulling her toward the well. The church, desperate to end the stories, sent a group of men to destroy the mission's remains. They found only the well, its stones warm, its water black and still. One man, peering inside, said he saw hands reaching up, small and pale, before he fainted. The group fled, leaving their tools behind, later found rusted and scattered around the well's edge. Coldwater, now nearly empty, saw families leave, their children waking at night, talking of a song from the valley. The church called it madness, but the well's pull grew stronger. A preacher, defying orders, visited the valley alone. He returned changed, his eyes distant, refusing to speak. His journal, found later, described a hum from the well, like a choir of boys, their voices twisted into something not human. The church burned his words, but they spread, carried by those who sought the truth. The well, it seemed, was not just a place. It was a will, hungry and waiting for new souls to claim. The well's power spread beyond the valley. By 1855, farmers miles away found their crops dead, marked with strange prints, like bare feet too small for adults. Children in nearby towns woke screaming, saying a song called them to the forest. Parents locked their doors, but the dreams didn't stop. A lone traveler, caught in a storm, camped near the well. He woke to find his fire gone, his bag open, its contents arranged in a spiral by the well's rim. He heard singing, soft, like a lullaby, but it filled him with dread. In the water, he saw faces, boys with empty eyes, their mouths moving silently. He ran, but the song stayed, haunting his sleep. His story drew others to Dusk Hollow, each returning changed, their eyes far away, their words of a well that knew them. The church, tired of fighting, sent a priest to bless the land. He returned shaking, his cross twisted into a strange shape, his voice gone. His notes, hidden before they were burned, spoke of a presence in the well, something that watched and remembered. In 1860, a preacher, obsessed with Dusk Hollow, went to the valley alone. He carried a heavy cross, believing it would protect him. The forest was silent, the air cold and thick, like it clung to his skin. He found the well, its stones untouched, its water black as night. He heard a hum, low and steady, like voices trapped below. In the water he saw boys, their faces pale, their hands reaching up, begging. Their song was no hymn, it was the earth groaning, hungry and alive. The preacher's journal, found miles away, told of his fear, how the well seemed to know his name. His cross, left by the well, was twisted into a spiral, its wood black as if burned. The church burned his journal, but its words reached those who hunted secrets. The valley grew darker, its shadows deeper, as if the well fed on the fear it caused. A child from a nearby town, wandering too close, returned mute, his eyes fixed on something unseen. His mother said he drew spirals in the dirt, whispering of a well that sang. The church, now powerless, could only pray, but the well's pull was stronger, its voice louder, calling to anyone who came near. The mission's truth, buried deep, was clawing its way out, refusing to stay silent. The valley was a forbidden place by 1865. Hunters avoided it, their dogs whining, refusing to cross its edge. The well stood alone, its stones warm in the frost, its water moving without wind. A scholar, defying the church, went to Dusk Hollow, seeking the mission's secrets. He found the well, its carvings glowing faintly like eyes watching him. He tried to sketch them, but his hands shook and his papers were gone by morning, as if taken. He heard a low song like boys singing far away, but it made his heart race with fear. He fled, but his dreams were filled with the well, its water showing faces that weren't his. His notes, found later, spoke of a tablet the monks found, at its surface alive, its words shifting. He believed it was no holy relic, but a key to something older, hungrier. He vanished soon after, his home empty, his walls scratched with spiral eyes. The church, desperate, sent men to cover the well with stones. They never returned. Their camp, found weeks later, held only a boy's toy, stained with black water. The valley's curse was growing, its reach longer, pulling in anyone who came too close, as if the well wanted more voices for its endless song. By 1870, Dusk Hollow was a name that chilled the heart. The valley's air was heavy, its trees twisted, their branches like claws reaching for the sky. A farmer, lost in the fog, stumbled near the well. He heard a hum, like a choir of boys, but the sound made his skin crawl. In the water, he saw faces, small, pale, with eyes that stared through him. He ran, but the song followed, whispering his name in the dark. His story spread, drawing the curious. By 1875, Dusk Hollow was a place no one dared name. The valley's silence was heavy, broken only by a faint hum that travelers swore came from the ground. The well stood untouched, its stones warm, its black water rippling with no wind. A hunter, lost in the fog, camped near it. He woke to find his fire dead, his knife stuck in the dirt by the well's edge. He heard singing, soft and sad, like boys calling from far away. In the water he saw faces, pale, small, their eyes wide with fear. He ran, but the song stayed, creeping into his dreams, urging him to return. His tale drew others, men seeking the mission's secrets, but none stayed long. A preacher, bold enough to face the valley, carried a Bible to fight the evil. He found the well, its carvings glowing faintly, like eyes watching him. The air felt thick, pressing against his chest. He heard a hum like a choir, but it made his heart race. His Bible, left by the well, was found later, its pages black with strange water. The church burned his story, but whispers spread, carried by those who hunted the truth. The well was more than a place. It was alive, its hunger growing, pulling in anyone who came too close, as if it needed new voices for its endless song. The church's lies grew thin. By 1880, Dusk Hollow's curse was a secret too big to hide. The valley's trees were twisted, their bark carved with spiral eyes, as if the land itself watched. A farmer, passing nearby, heard his dead son's voice, soft and pleading, coming from the well. He ran, but the sound followed, whispering in his sleep. Coldwater was a ghost town now, its last families gone, their homes marked with strange symbols. A group of men, calling themselves the Truth Seekers, went to the valley, determined to end the well's power. They found it, its stones warm, its water alive with shapes. One man tied a rope to a tree and lowered himself toward the water. He screamed, saying he saw hands small and cold pulling at him. The rope snapped and he was gone. The others fled, their camp left behind, their tools rusted by the well's edge. Their journals, found later, spoke of a presence that knew their fears, a voice that sang their names. The church, desperate, burned the journals, but the truth slipped out, carried by those who refused to forget. The well was no hole in the ground. It was a will, a mind, waiting for its next offering, its song growing louder with each soul it took. The well's reach grew longer. By 1885, towns miles away felt its shadow. Farmers found their fields dead, marked with small footprints circling in the dirt. Children woke at night whispering of a song from the forest, their eyes fixed on something unseen. A widow, living alone, swore she saw her lost daughter's face in a bucket of water, her mouth moving in a silent plea. The valley was forbidden, but the curious still came. A scholar seeking the mission's truth camped by the well. By 1890, Dusk Hollow was a legend of fear. The valley's silence was a lie, hiding the well's endless hum. Hunters said their dogs froze near the valley, whining, their eyes fixed on the forest. A child, straying too close, came back silent, drawing spirals in the dirt. His parents fled, but the boy's dreams were of water, black and alive, calling his name. A preacher, driven by faith, went to the well with a cross and prayers. He found its stones warm, its carvings glowing faintly, like eyes that saw him. The air was thick, pressing against his chest, and the hum was loud, like a choir of boys, but twisted, wrong. He saw faces in the water, small and pale, their mouths open in silent screams. His cross, left behind, was found twisted, its wood black as coal. His journal, hidden before it was burned, spoke of a presence that knew his sins, a voice that sang his fears. The church, desperate, called the mission a myth, but the well stood, its water moving, its hunger growing. The valley was no longer just cursed, it was alive, its heart the well, beating with a will that refused to die. The truth, buried deep, was clawing its way out, carried by those who sought the forbidden. The well's curse was unstoppable. By 1895, the valley was a place of nightmares, its air heavy with a sour smell like rotting iron. A traveler, seeking shelter, camped near the well. He woke to find his fire gone, his tools arranged in a circle around the well's edge. He heard singing, soft and eerie, like boys trapped far below. The water showed faces, not his own, their eyes wide, their hands reaching up. He ran, but the song followed, whispering in his sleep, pulling him back. His story drew others, men hungry for the mission's secrets, but none returned unchanged. A group of seekers went to the valley, carrying lanterns to face the dark. They found the well. By 1900, Dusk Hollow was a name that froze the blood. The valley's silence hid a hum, low and steady, like a heartbeat from the earth. The well stood alone, its stones warm in the frost, its black water alive with ripples. A group of men, calling themselves the Seekers, went to uncover the mission's truth. They camped by the well, their lanterns dimming without cause. One man, braver than the rest, lowered a rope into the depths. He screamed, saying he saw hands, small and pale, pulling at the rope. The others fled, leaving their camp behind, their tools rusted by the well's edge. Days later, their homes were empty, their families gone, their walls marked with spiral eyes. The Seekers' journals found years later spoke of a presence that knew their fears, a voice that sang their names. The church burned the journals, but the truth slipped out, carried by those who refused to forget. The valley's air grew heavier, its shadows darker, as if the well fed on the terror it caused. A child from a nearby town, wandering too close, came back silent, his eyes fixed on something unseen, drawing spirals in the dirt. The church, now powerless, could only pray, but the air was thick, pressing against his chest, and the hum was loud, like a choir of boys, but twisted, wrong. His cross, left behind, was found twisted into a spiral, its wood black as coal. His journal, hidden before it was burned, spoke of a presence that knew his sins, a voice that sang his fears. The church called the mission a myth, but the well stood, its water alive, its hunger endless. The valley was no longer just cursed. It was a trap, its heart the well, beating with a will that refused to die. By 1910, Dusk Hollow was a legend of terror. The valley's silence was a lie, hiding the well's endless song. A scholar, defying the church, went to uncover the mission's truth. He found the well, its stones warm, its carvings glowing like living eyes. He heard a hum like boys singing, but it made his heart race with dread. The water showed faces, not his own, staring up with empty eyes. He tried to write what he saw, but his notes were gone by morning, his tent marked with spiral eyes. He fled, but his dreams were filled with the well, its voice calling him back. The church, desperate, sent men to bury the well under stones. They never returned. Their camp, found weeks later, held only a boy's toy, stained with black water. The valley's air grew heavier, its shadows darker, as if the well fed on the fear it caused. A farmer passing nearby saw lights in the forest, like candles floating above the ground, circling the well. The church's cover-up was failing, its silence breaking as the well's song grew louder, pulling in anyone who listened too long. The truth, buried deep, was clawing its way out, carried by those who sought the forbidden, refusing to stay silent. The well's curse was eternal. By 1915, the valley was a place of nightmares, its air thick with a sour smell, like rotting iron. A traveler seeking shelter camped near the well. He woke to find his gone, his tools arranged in a circle around the well's edge. He heard singing, soft and eerie, like boys trapped in the dark. The water showed faces, their eyes wide, their hands reaching up. He ran, but the song followed, whispering in his sleep, pulling him back. His story drew others, men hungry for the mission's secrets, but none returned unchanged. A group of seekers went to the valley, carrying lanterns to face the dark. They found the well, its stones warm, its water alive with ripples. One man lowered a lantern into the depths. It went out, and he screamed, saying he saw hands, small and cold, reaching up. The group fled, their camp left behind, their tools rusted by the well's edge. Their journals, found later, spoke of a presence that saw them, a voice that knew their names. The church burned the journals, but the truth lived, carried by those who refused to forget. The well was no hole. It was a mind, a will, waiting for its next offering, its song growing louder with each soul it claimed. The valley is silent now, or so they say. By 1920, Dusk Hollow was a name no one spoke, its truth buried under fear. The well stands, its stones untouched, its black water still, but alive. At night, under a moonless sky, some hear it, a faint hum, like a choir of boys, singing a song no human throat could make. Hunters avoid the valley, their dogs refusing to cross its edge, whining at shadows that move without light. The church denies it all, its records gone, its priests silent. But the truth lives in whispers, carried by those who seek the forbidden. A dying man, once a boy in cold water,